Alright, let's get this started. Hi there, I'm IntoLight, normally playing on the Ashlyn's Blade account in Marvel Rivals, but I thought that I would take this week's video as an opportunity to explain where my account name even comes from. Now, some people may have guessed, but this is related to my channel's profile picture. This is Ashlyn. Ashlyn is a tiny girl with a giant coat and an even larger sword. As much as I wish it was the case, she is not my OC, but is actually from the failed hero shooter slash MOBA Gigantic. Gigantic was announced in 2014 and began its beta in 2016. This was when I became aware of it and began playing the game. Now, people who know their hero shooter history might recognize these years. This is happening at the exact same time as when Overwatch was being released. As much as I would like to say that its failure to gain steam was due to unfavorable comparison to Overwatch, or heck even Paladins, the truth is that Gigantic simply never came up in wider discussion. Even Battleborn received attention due to being compared with the other two big hero shooters, but, at least as far as I can tell, Gigantic was simply swept into the background without being noticed. Its studio was constantly dealing with funding and distribution issues, which other YouTubers have covered much better than I ever could, link in the description. So I think those are ultimately what did the game in. However, I do think this is a crying shame. I mean, of course I would hold such an opinion. I wouldn't have named my rival's account after Ashlyn otherwise. But what is it about Gigantic that would cause me to do that? Well, honestly, it has nothing to do with the gameplay itself, which I think is pretty good, other than needing a pass to increase the readability of the game. However, what really connected for me is the game's art and world building. First up, it's the art style of the game. Similar to other hero shooters, it is very cartoony in its style, but I think it is even higher on the cartoon scale than Overwatch or even Paladins. For example, here is the roundest man that you've ever seen. Here's tentacle porn. A dead guy. A guy who's maybe not dead yet. I really don't know what he is, but he's certainly something. And an earth spirit who I'm not terribly surprised looks like a badger. The designs are so clean and exaggerated that it's fairly obvious what every character's deal is. The Badger and the Black Knight hit stuff with their hands. The Grim Reaper's going to suck out your soul, Uncle Sven throws potions, and it just continues on. As another example, look at Imani. Her crossbow is as big as she is. With the scope on top of it, it is clear that she's some sort of sniper, and her fur-lined heavy clothing indicates a hometown in the mountains or the tundra. With every character in the game being this unique and cartoony, not even mentioning the maps, guardian creatures, or ship designs, I was hooked from the first frame that I saw. I didn't fall in love with Ashlyn's design right away when I began playing Gigantic. Nowadays, I can of course endlessly praise the way that the coat looks like a warm hug and her white poofy hair contrasts beautifully with it. But I was a bit busy being an edgy teenager at the time, so my attention was instead stolen away by Trip and Tyto the Swift. I don't think explanations of why are necessary. I mean, just look at these edgelords. Side note, Fang is superior to Tippy Toe in every way. And just look at him. Those blood-red eyes simply hypnotize the soul, almost making you overlook his fluffiness and giant ears. He's so cute. I love him. So, now that you're hopefully hooked on the game's art style, my next question was, of course, what are all these guys' deals? Like, is there lore and a world behind all these confidently cartoonish characters? Well, fortunately for me, the answer was yes. The game released its lore in a few ways. Dev videos, skin descriptions, ability descriptions, fortune cards, mission cards, and in-game voice lines added a wonderful amount of depth to the world of Gig. It almost felt like you couldn't turn a corner of the game without tripping over a morsel of story or characterization. If you want to dive into the lore yourself, I personally recommend the wiki at gogigantic.mirahaze.org/wiki. They've collected all quotes, poems, letters, and descriptions that you could possibly want there, while also providing links to further sources. I myself am only going to go over Ashlyn here because this is what caught my attention. Ashlyn herself is the daughter of Sir Cador, or Cador? I don't know, I never really learned how to say his name. I don't think it ever comes up. Unlike Ashlyn, who, as you can see here, very, very clearly says how her name is pronounced. Apparently that's a bad mix-up that happens every once in a while. I imagine most Brits would already know how to pronounce it, but us Americans are lacking in this department. Anyways, Sir Cador was a knight of House Karakesh, a military and war-focused organization within the Empire, the primary staging ground of the game. House Karakesh is more of a political faction than a single noble lineage, and in the Empire is comparable to House Orion, House Melchior, and House Devedra. Sir Cador died after participating in a battle while still recovering from previous wounds. He led his army to victory, but while riding back home after the battle, it seems that he was assassinated or something. It's not really sure what happens. It's a little bit ambiguous within the statements that were given. However, eventually his sword and his coat got back to Ashlyn. Ashlyn put on the coat and took up his sword, swearing that she would claim vengeance against those who had killed her father. In this endeavor, she has two things to help her. First, she is very, very good with the sword. This is toned down in-game for gameplay reasons, and you just see her swinging it in wide arcs all the time, but read the lore blurbs and you'll find out that she is in fact already on par with senior knights in terms of her swordplay. And secondly, somehow or another, the ghost of her father had taken residence in his own sword. Nobody in the world has an explanation as to why or how Sir Cador's ghost exists. Some think that it's due to a grudge from his life, maybe wanting to take the life of the person who killed him. However, their thinking is then why doesn't he haunt the person who killed him? Does he just not know who killed him? Why does he haunt his daughter? It's really weird if that's the case. So others came up with different explanations. They think that maybe it's Ashlyn herself who's conjuring the ghost and controlling it on the battlefield. There seems to be some old hag involved somewhere on the chain of ghostly resuscitation, but the entire thing's a bit blurry. This is something that you'll find in basically every story within the game. Every character has stories like this, dropped bit by bit in different chunks and blurbs. However, since the game is now dead and the story is no longer being developed, the world of Gig is basically an open sandbox for writers. The state of the lore here has captured my fancy, and Ashlyn in particular resonated with me. Something in her mature yet young, stoic yet melancholic demeanor captured my passion to the point of giving her pride of place in my rival's account name. Of course, it also helps that both Ashlyn and Magic are stoic girls with giant swords. Now, if you made it this far in the video, I would personally recommend you do not buy Gigantic, unless, after going and seeing all the various characters in the game, you just really want to run around as one of the playable characters. Because, as I said, this game's dead. Unless the game gets a player base of at least a few hundred, up from its current, 20, it really is not worth it to play only against bots. So, I hope this video has helped you understand why my account is named Ashlyn's Blade. I love the girl, she's great. And I also hope that it's made you at least a little bit interested in the world of Gigantic. Thank you so much for watching this unusual video from me. And because I missed last week's video, I will be uploading some Magic gameplay later on in the week. Hopefully it'll be my rank up game. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Please go check out Gigantic. Again, go gigantic.mirahaze.org/wiki. And with that, it's about time that I signed off. Bye-bye. Have a good one.